All right. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good webinar. It's IBM webinar for the admin community titled "Understanding the Impact of the Network on Applications with SevOne Automated Network Observability." I'm Brian Promise. I lead the outbound product management for the SevOne product line, and I'm joined today by Rupert Gregory. Rupert, go and introduce folks to yourself.
Hey folks, yes, Rupert Gregory here. Apologies for not being on video today. I am part of the product management team here at SevOne. I work on all things architecture, design, and strategy, and it's quite an exciting time for us with a lot changing in the world, a lot changing in networks, yeah, we're really excited to introduce some of these new features to you today.
Great, thanks, Rupert. I'm really, as Rupert said, excited to be here, more to share the perspective that we can now provide you out of the SevOne Automated Network Observability offering that is focused around an application viewpoint into the network itself. Right? There's I'll call it a short bit that I've had for many years that folks in the networking and operational engineering space, right? They don't wake up and say, hey, I'm going to go buy a new router today. I want to go buy a new switch. They wake up, in partnership with the rest of the business, the need to deploy, applications being deployed across our network to drive, new business and efficiencies within their operations, and networks then follow the needs of the business and deploy the level of capacity, the level of agility that are required to deliver the value of the applications are there to put into the business. And it really is something that if you really take a step back and recognize, how impactful the applications have become, not just to how businesses are run, but especially how businesses interact with their clients. Whether you're a B2B or a B2C type of company, right? The daily interaction that you have with applications touching back into a corporate environment, where that environment is, I'll say masked from you, right? You don't know if you're touching something on the cloud or touching something back through their on-prem data center or some combination in a hybrid cloud type environment. Your ability to interact with them via the application is becoming, so much more the primary way that engagements start. And continue on go. So it becomes absolutely imperative, right, that the applications that are there to run and have the business rely upon, that the underlying network is always performant, right, and continuously performing. And if you take a look at the bottom of the slide, if you think about it, there are a lot of different parts that make up the network, right? From the on-prem network, where you've got the Wi-Fi access points as the leading on-ramp onto the network these days, back through campus switching to multi-hybrid, to software-defined data centers, hybrid cloud environments, where applications today are deployed both on-prem and in the cloud, with different application piece parts, living in different domains. It becomes the need that network operations engineering teams have to have the visibility of the network, whatever their end-to-end that they're responsible for, right? Whether you think you're coming from the Wi-Fi or already back to the cloud, or if you're a service provider, right, and needing to have that level of service you're providing to your customers, you need that level of end-to-end visibility, of all the network elements that you're in charge of. But what we're going to be talking about today, right, is the ability to not only give the visibility of the network guidance, but be able to get it from an application-centric perspective. And we'll be later in the session today, Rupert's going to walk through a live demonstration with you, help you give you some color, with what that really means, right? And we'll give you a couple of examples along the way to help give you a perspective. Before we get to I'll say the live demonstration, I want to give those who aren't as familiar with the SevOne offering a picture of some of the capabilities and value that we've seen over the years come with the offering, and then really help then provide this aspect around the application-centric feature sets and the value they can bring to you, and begin to think from an application perspective. So one of the areas that I always find interesting in this space is the evolution of the challenges that the network operations engineering teams have, right? And if you think about over the last few years, right, what's been happening to network ops and engineering teams and IT operations as a whole, right? And it has been a combination of I'll call three items that are on here on the left side of the screen, right? There's been a continued shift toward hybrid cloud and software as a service applications, right? Hybrid cloud applications being those that are they maybe they're deployed on-prem, maybe they're deployed in the cloud, somewhere in between, right? With different components of the applications, some being closer to the user, the front door to the user, versus the back end data stores that may be in the cloud or may be on-prem. But also the continued rise of software as a service, right, where applications are completely run by third-party organizations for you, right, and your employees and your customers interacting with those software as a service applications. It means that the visibility and the control that teams used to have of what used to be within their four walls is now one that extends beyond their four walls. Right? So there's fragmented visibility and control that there's value they're getting from the flexibility of this deployment and the agility they get from the deployment of these applications SaaS, but they give up a little bit of visibility and control. So as we go through today, we'll talk a bit about what it means to have some of that visibility and control back in with an application like SevOne. The second is the shift from static to dynamic networks. Right, there used to be this old line, that networks were set and forget. Right, ones that you would configure the box, rack it and stack it, and just leave it alone, let it run. Because if you begin to muck with one piece of the network, it can't have impact on the rest of the network. Well, that type of model has dramatically changed over the last number of years. Right, if I even take Wi-Fi access points as a good example, right? Wi-Fi access points, sit there as with the software controller in between, right, and enable users to move, freely, right, within the enterprise, moving seamlessly between different access points, right, and that level of permission control and mobility are managed by software controllers, and the need then to help IT teams understand, where are users, where have they been, what's their, I'll call it the breadcrumb trails that are required to help troubleshoot that part of the network, is much different than what takes place, say, on a WAN environment where I have a software-defined WAN that it is built around policy and understanding, hey, if I'm hitting this level of traffic, please reroute to a different path, type of thing. And you need to understand from a management tool perspective that that your tools actually have awareness of all those differences, so that when it comes time for you to be able to troubleshoot, you can look in real time what's happening, and you can go back in time to see how things have been. So it's a big change in what it means to be able to have visibility and control into those dynamic networks. It really, if I think of areas, Rupert, where we put some of the most energies over the past number of years, right, into the product line, has been around, what it means for us to work in a multi-vendor, multi-technology, software-defined environment, from Wi-Fi data center in the WAN.
And that's, Brian, just quickly, I mean, that's a great point, right? We must remember that, I'm quite proud of the fact that we are and continue to be vendor agnostic, right? We don't care, who your router, your your switch, your firewalls. We really don't care who manufactures them, provided we can get the data into our system, we can process it and surface, insights very rapidly.
Yeah, and we'll talk about in a bit some of the evolutions we've made in that space as well, right? And just continue to recognize that our users need the ability to bring the data in that they require for their networks, and we've got we've got a good slide on that here come up in a bit. It's a good reminder for us to make sure we drive in that level of value. And then also find that the last is what I'll call labor shortages, right? Network operations teams, they are the talent is difficult to replace, right? New entrants aren't always coming into the field, right? They're looking at the broader pieces of IT at times. And what ends up meaning, if I put these three together, is that network ops and engineering teams right now they've got some gaps to fill, and what it means is to make sure that the tooling they have around the management and monitoring of their network, the overall observability of their environment, needs to be continuously more capable, right? It's not, you can't go back to the monitoring of static networks where maybe I was just focused on how often can I pull that SNMP variable, right? If you are focusing just on pulling SNMP, like some platforms out in the market are, you're going to have amazing gaps in your ability to understand what's happening in the network and what's happened over time. But it's also a need around to tap into automation capabilities that can come in play to help make it easier to take actions on top of insights that come out of a monitoring system, but also to bring in richer data sets. We'll talk a bit about some examples of what some of our leading customers have been doing in that area. But what I'd like to walk through now with you, right, is a little bit of a what if, right? And I want you to, as I go through the slide, begin to think about the tooling you have today. When we walk into any new client, we find every client we have has some type of observability network performance management system, and they usually have more than one. And depending on what the business driver was at the time to bring it in, there is usually, we tend to find, at least one, usually 2 to 3 that are deployed across an environment. But I want you to think about the ways you're using the tool today, and begin to think of, what if I could do this with a system, and the value it can then bring to your overall observability of the network that your teams are in charge of, to make sure that the applications can provide the services they have, and that the network is always performing. So we'll start first with complete network visibility, right? We want to make sure that teams have support across that entire chain of the network they're responsible for. So the offering needs to make sure it supports today's latest hybrid cloud network architectures, but it needs to make it, like I'll say, really easy to get started, right? And make sure that out of the box you have the vendors that you need to easily surface the data sets and be able to bring data in. But you also need the flexibility to say, hey, I've got something brand new in my network, and most of the, I'll say, newer software-defined network elements that are out there, they tend to have their own APIs, and when you're API driven, it can take time to have that level of capability be surfaced into a management system. So you make sure you have some flexibility to have some self-service data ingestion capability, so you can have visibility into that part of the network. And finally, you want to make sure you've got an architecture that doesn't limit the amount of data you bring in, right? It's one of the most significant differentiations that the SevOne offering provides to the marketplace is the power to our users to bring in as much data as they want for the problem they're trying to solve, right? You're going to run into multiple vendors in the marketplace who, based on their architecture, can only bring in certain amounts of data, or can only keep data for a certain amount of time, and can only analyze certain types of data sets. But with SevOne, we have a very innovative architecture that is built around the notion of peering sets of software together that, I would say, knock on wood, we've not hit a network that we're not able to scale to. It enables organizations to say, hey, for for those core routers that are key to my business, I want to get data from those devices, every 30 seconds to a minute. Those devices over in the closet, okay, I can get that every 5 minutes. Oh, but what about the new cloud systems we have at AWS? I want to make sure I get some streams of that data in and understand what's happening, right? So you've got a range of capabilities to be able to bring data sets in. But it isn't just that I get the data, right? Once you get the data, it's the old line is, okay, thank you for the data. What the heck can you do with it now? And if there's one takeaway that I want you to have out of today is, that the SevOne system gives you the flexibility to get the data that you want, right, at the rate that is important to you, not that what's set by the limits of a platforms where scalability isn't at the heart of their offering. The second is there is a fundamental, every bit of metric data, every poll that we make, every stream data that comes into the system is automatically baselined to help organizations understand what's normal and what's not, and will automatically alert teams that there's an issue. And I can't tell you how important that is to organizations as they begin to monitor and manage their networks and understand the implications of it. It reminds me of a retailer here in the U.S. that was using they weren't a customer of SevOne at the time, and the system they were using was having some scalability issues. Right, they had started with the system, and they were going out getting data every 7 minutes. But the retailer continued to grow. Right, they went from a couple hundred sites to up to 1,500 sites where they were in this scenario. And what began to happen was that the system was having a hard time keeping up with doing that level of polling and collection. So they were told, hey, go change your tuning and go get data every 15 minutes. But then on top of that piece, right, the system was having a difficult time keeping up with running, I'll call it the static baselines that come in, static alerts that are prevalent in most systems. That the system was having a hard time processing information. So what was happening, right, was the operations team was looking at all their retail stores, and the maps were showing completely green. But what was really happening behind the scenes, they were having issues at certain stores with Wi-Fi access points, which were causing issues with their cash register systems, and they were beginning to hear more with phone calls back to IT than their system could take into place. And I tell that story because it hits really across two different key elements of the SevOne offering, and that is the system scalability in that scenario. When this retailer moved to using SevOne, they moved to actually getting data every 2 or 3 minutes from the key areas of the store. But instead of looking at a giant map and trying to find what was red, they began to rely upon these automatic baselines that know what's normal and what's not, and have that data surfaced to them, where they begin to manage by exception, right? Where they know what's normal and automatically know what's not normal, and know where to begin to take action. And from there, right, if you begin to transition your operations to working with these automated baselines, and then go in and begin to tweak the alert policies about, hey, when do I really care about an issue, and begin to service to teams only what matters, right? It then really begins to help drive a different level of more efficiency into an operations organization. I would then build on top of that there's because of the scalability that the system has, right? The system keeps the performance data that is collected as polled, as collected, that I'll say raw for an entire year by default. And where that data becomes super important is around capacity planning, right? And the ability to look back in time and see, how do things, if I'll go back to the retailer, right? How do things work that last time I had that, that big sale, or that, the big push within my organization? How did the network perform? If I'm planning the next big campaign, do I have the capacity? You can go back in time and look, and you can begin to apply some additional analytics around trend analysis to make sure that the links you have and the network you have is performing as designed. And then I then layer on top of that the ease of, now that I can get the data, now that I can have the data automatically analyzed, help me make it easy to see the data, right? And there are, on the Rupert, how many out of the box dashboards and reports come with the system these days?
I think we're in the 20s to 30s, but
yeah,
you're not limited, right?
Yeah, it starts we've seen the proof of concept, proof of value stage of opportunities where users are getting up and running in hours and seeing live data from their environment because of these day one dashboards. Right, over the years, we've become pretty familiar with the 200 plus vendors that are out there in this space, and the type of KPIs that begin to make sense. But to Rupert's point, right, is you can begin to make changes to those dashboards that become important to you and how you want to use them. But even then, I'll call it the cherry on top of that is that these dashboards don't have to be unique user to user, right? You can set dashboards up and begin to share them across an organization, especially if you're a large global enterprise, right? You can follow the sun operationally and know that each team, as they transition across their time shifts, that they're all working with the same visualizations, all working with the same data sets, and make it that much easier to begin to troubleshoot and understand what's happening in the network.
Yeah. One other point there, Brian. One other point, just quickly, is that these dashboards are also very point and click, right? You have a menu of drop downs. You can pick and choose. You can drag and drop. You can rearrange it. You can slice and dice it. And there's not one single line of SQL or any form of query language or anything like that. It's designed to be self-service for pretty much your entire user base. Whereas I know that if we talk about dashboards in particular, some other products, do make you either they lock them down so you can't do anything, or they make you write SQL or some other form of query language. Like ours are super simple to use.
Yeah, it becomes as you'll see as Rupert here in a few minutes goes and shows you the live demonstration, how easy it is to get through. Interacting and have that level of flexible troubleshooting. And one of the big things that we're highlighting here today, right, is this flexible troubleshooting, the ability to start your troubleshooting from the perspective of where your issue is, right? And whether you're starting from the application or the network, and I want to steal the thunder on that one. We'll get to that point here in a couple of minutes. But as the data is there, we enable organizations to link their data sets together to create troubleshooting workflows, right? So one of the things that you'll see when Rupert gives the demo is the ability to go from flow data that gives you very rich application knowledge of what type of applications are going through certain parts of the network, the ability to link into metric data, and vice versa, but also tap into log systems you have. We have some built-in integration with Splunk and Elk log systems that that you can go, well, hey, I saw this issue on this router or switch, and well, what was going on with the config of that box at the time? What was the log system picking up? And you can visually link data that that you're collecting around performance, and be able to link it to data that is I'd say managed by a Splunk or Elk system. Through I'll say a time-based level of analysis and linking to those data sets becomes an important aspect, right, to tap into the data sets that matter for an organization. And then finally, now that I've collected data, I've analyzed data, I can visualize data. There's a key set of capabilities in the offering now to begin to automate actions and leverage a set of predefined workflow templates that can help take actions into the network itself based upon the insights you get from the SevOne system. The ability to help bring, I'll say, richer capabilities into the environment and make sure you've got the right type of metadata surrounding the network and the elements you're monitoring, and make it easy for teams to closer tie the network into the rest of their IT operational tool sets through a low code, no code development engine that is there with the system. So it gives a level of teams to actually begin to take actions based upon the insights that they're getting from the overall system. Now, if I take a step back and say, okay, what could this look like, right? And you think about some of the things that Rupert and I have been talking about, right? We've been talking about how enterprises are designed. If you look at the slide from left to right, on the left-hand side, organizations are in charge of a multi-vendor, multi-technology networks, right? From Wi-Fi on the edge back through hybrid cloud environments, getting data from across those systems. Sometimes systems you can go pull and get metrics of what's happening. Other times you need to get stream data from them. If you want application information, they're tapping into flow data. Sometimes the data is not standard. You need ways to go and grab the data in. And we've got capabilities with a self-service API data ingestion engine to help get some of those data sets in. But as that data comes in, all the capabilities that we talked about in the last slide around getting the data you want and having the machine learning analytics do its work, visualize and take actions, all then help the next column to make it easier to monitor, easier to troubleshoot, having alerts that begin to matter, integration richer with ticketing and AI ops systems, so that you're tying further into your IT operational tool sets to taking actions to help drive closed loop automation of an environment. We can Rupert and I could probably run another 2-hour webinar on different aspects, right, of value that can come, but just recognize if we go back and think about the tool sets you're using today, what things are you seeing different, right? That you can do with SevOne that you're not able to do today, and that becomes the ability to unlock some additional value for your organization. And the area I want to pivot to now is really this application centric view that we provide across an environment. And when you think about application centric, and network performance, it really comes down to a handful of items that you need to make sure you've got a handle on. The first is that applications depend upon, right, a multi-vendor, multi-technology universe. Make sure you have support for collecting data from those elements. Make sure that you can get pulled metrics from them. Make sure you can get stream metrics. Make sure you can get application flow data in that environment. And then what we'll show you here in the upcoming demonstration is how now with those data sets that I'm collecting both metric and flow data, that you can then have a much richer troubleshooting experience when interacting with those data sets, because a very classic issue, right, that users have, right, if users are using WebEx and WebEx is slow for them that day, right, they don't call the help desk and say, oh, hey, router 27 in Berlin is slow today, right? They call and say, deep breath, WebEx is slow in Berlin office again, right? It's that level of interaction that they have, right? They don't have any context to the network elements. They are interacting with the application directly. Because for years, right, the tooling that the network teams have had and applications have they really speak different languages, right? Application teams speak app, right? They understand where the different components that make up the application, how are those components communicating? How are those components performing? The network teams think about the routers, the switches, the firewalls, the load balancers, all the elements that need to work together to deliver the network performance. And when an application team says, hey, WebEx is slow in Berlin, to a network guy, they're like, okay, Berlin. All right, let me go look at the Berlin network. Let me go see what's going on. They're not able to speak, they're not able to speak application to the application teams. And it makes that collaboration difficult. It lengthens the mean time to innocence, right? Which is really, is it the app or the network? Becomes the key question to answer. And it begins to tune in this notion is what if, right? What if you could enable network teams to speak application? What if an application team, when they get that ticket that WebEx is slow in Berlin, they were able to call up their teammates on the network side and said, hey, what's happening with WebEx in Berlin today? And they'd be able to quickly pull that information up. And that is this innovation that the Rupert team have brought to market, right? With this latest release of SevOne, is enabling the network operations and engineering teams, right, who are tasked with keeping that network running, with understanding what's happening, and be able to troubleshoot the environment to keep the applications that are driving the business, keeping those up and running. They can now begin to speak app to the network itself. Rupert, when you think about some of the features here, any insights on before we show them about what the team has done to help make it all work?
Yeah, I mean, one of the key things actually, and one of the things I'm kind of quite proud of is that, this is just there out of the box with SevOne. It's value you get from the moment that you install SevOne on your network. You send us flow data and you will start getting that value straight away. If we wind back to or perhaps look at some of the alternative ways of doing this. You used to have to install packet capture devices. You used to have to install probes. You used to have to configure NBAR, or AVC, which meant that you were restricted to Cisco routers only. That everything leading up to this point was very network intrusive. And potentially expensive as well, right? So the way that we've achieved this is by shipping intelligence within the IBM SevOne platform. And, from the moment you turn it on, it will start analyzing the flow that it sees. And again, we don't care what kind of flow it is. It could be V5, V9, IPFix, S flow, J flow, C flow. We don't care. We will just start enriching and adding that information in there automatically. And by the way, it's not just applications, right? We also add in the ASN, which is the network operators information. We also add in the country of origin or destination, so you can see what countries your data is going from and to. The final point I want to mention here is that this is all extensible as well. So what I mean by that is, we've done that. We've got you started, right? We ship 10,000 application definitions out of the box, but we don't necessarily know about those apps that are inside your network. We never would. But you can tell us about them if you have a CMDB or other form of app registry system internally within your own company. Perhaps using the automated workflows within SevOne, you can push those your internal application definitions to us as well. And so not only can we tell you what's going on with all the SaaS applications, the WebEx, the Office 365, the Zooms of the world, but we can also tell you about your internal applications, which might be like a financial trading application or energy trading or some other form of internal app. We will bring all of that and surface it to you.
Yeah. When I first saw some of the new capabilities that Rupert's going to show you here I'll say less than a minute, is it really began to change the dynamic for me for the value that SevOne can provide to an organization, right? That ability to begin to ask the network effectively the questions that matter to you, right? Of how you're getting your questions in, you can match the cadence and the context that come your way, whether it's coming from a network perspective and now coming from an application perspective. So I think with that, Rupert, if you have you've got demo up and loaded, that we can you can show some of this in action.
Yep. I will just share my screen in 2 seconds. And there we go. Hopefully that is coming through loud and clear for everyone. So we're in our front end of the SevOne product. This is a standard network performance report. This is not necessarily on the application-centric point of view, but I wanted to show you just a little bit of the wider product so we can see how straight away, it's surfacing things that I need to look at. I've got 4 critical things on my network already. These are CPU thresholds that I should probably have a look at. I'm not going to look at those straight away because actually what we want to do today is look at some application-centric stuff. Just want to take you back and show you where we started. I think it's important to ground ourselves, and this is also how some other tooling is today, right? So, what's going on my network? Well, okay, I've got what looks like about 50% of traffic here is HTTPS. Well, everything's HTTPS these days. Most applications are delivered over HTTPS. So, it's no longer good enough to just say HTTPS traffic. We want to go that level deeper. We want to surface the applications that are underneath it. And so this is where, we're quite proud of the changes that we've made. So if I flip to a report showing our new features, straight away you can see now, well, it's not HTTPS, it's Box, it's Amazon EC2, Akamai, Google services, Instagram, Facebook. Okay, who's on Instagram and Facebook? To have a look around. Maybe we'll look into that later. We got Slack. So, straight away, I now have context. I have information. Is this business-related applications? Is this not? What's the volume of applications that are going across my network? And we can filter these down, right? So at the moment, we're showing the top 10. But as I said, we ship with 10,000 out of the box. And there's a huge list, right? I'm not going to scroll through all of these. I wouldn't expect you to scroll through all of them. We can simply type search. So, the question was, what's up with WebEx? I haven't actually been on a WebEx today, so there isn't actually any results. But I did upload some documents to Box. And I did use some Google Mail earlier. I checked my personal email on my phone. So you can see that as I'm typing, straight away, this interface is refreshing very quickly as well and surfacing what's going on with these applications. So straight away, I can see that Box 1.41 gig of traffic. Great. Okay, let's go for a little bit more detail. So let's look at that over time. We can see about an hour or so ago, there was quite a large upload to Box. That was me just before this webinar prepping the material for the webinar. So I uploaded it to Box. Okay, that's great. So again, let's go to the next level of detail. Let's see, who are the clients? Who are the servers that we're talking to? That's a nice list. Let's look at it in a bit of a different way. So Sankey is a great visualization here, and apologies, my screen is slightly compressed because of the screen sharing. But right away, clear as day, we've got this huge flow going to Box. I can see that the laptop, actually my laptop that was doing the uploading, I can see the server that it was talking to. I can see Gmail here is talking to all these other servers, and here are the clients here. And incidentally, you'll see that this also shows IPv6 addressing. This feature is ready, as we should all be, for the world of IPv6. So whether it's IPv4 or IPv6, we don't care. We tag all of the applications and surface insights about them. So that's great. We've identified that an application Box was using a lot of bandwidth. we want to go and now look at the related infrastructure. Back to Brian's point right at the outset here. When someone calls the help desk, they talk about the app. They don't talk about the infrastructure. But as a NetOps guy, I now need to say, okay, well, I know the app. Where in my, my huge multinational network, where was that app being used? What pieces of infrastructure did that traffic travel over? And what we've introduced here is something that we call flow to metric. So for anywhere that we see specific flows on the network, and in this case, it's WebEx, Box, and Gmail, show me the exact ports and links that traffic traversed over. So now we can see that it was this particular switch on GE11. So this was the exact interface that was carrying that specific application at that time. What we can do from here, of course, is go deeper. So I know about the app. I now know about the particular piece of infrastructure that was going on. Let's go deeper still. So one thing you'll notice here is that these particular links here are in blue. And what that means in our front end is if you see something in blue, you can click on it and it's a link. So let's have a look at this specific interface. Was there anything going on that I need to worry about? We can see here straight away interface utilization. Okay, that's not so bad. There's no issues there. Errors, discards, nothing there. Availability was good. So, okay, everything's all right at the moment. We got lucky. But is the availability always good? Is this interface always stable? Perhaps someone complained about it last week, or perhaps there was an issue in the past. At the moment, we've got a time filter applied, but okay, let's have a look back over the past 24 hours. And we can see here, our calendar heat map has refreshed, and okay, everything fine over the past 48 hours. What about past 7 days? Okay, interesting. So, sticking out like a sore thumb, we can see that there was some downtime over Sunday night into Monday morning, 3 a.m. Monday morning. There must have been, hopefully that was some maintenance or something. We could check. What about further back? One of the things that Brian briefly touched upon was that we store a lot of data as polled data. So, I can go and ask for the past 3 months. 1, 2, 3. You can see straight away that interface refreshed. I've got 3 months of data. I can look and see for patterns now. So actually what's quite interesting here is it seems like Tuesday is not a great day. So this can prompt me to investigate further. Is there something that happens on a Tuesday? Is this when the cleaner comes in and unplugs the router? We joke about it. It still happens. But by being able to zoom all the way out to 3 months of data and potentially even further. I've chosen 3 months. Can I go back even further? I don't know. Let's go for the past year. Okay, I haven't got the past year's worth of data. I've only got 6 months of data. Looks like September was a bad month. But you see, I didn't even flinch. I'm doing a live demo in front of you. I didn't flinch when I clicked that button because I knew that SevOne can handle these large amounts of data, very rapidly analyzing this in the context of, potentially a huge multinational carrier network. So I'll go back to the top. We started off, we can ask an app question, any of the 10,000 applications that we ship, or potentially your own ones that you use to enrich us with. We have the categories. We have the information about the applications themselves. We have the related infrastructure, the infrastructure that was specifically carrying that application at that point in time. And then from there, we can drill down single clicks into either the interface, or if we want, we could go to the device level. And let's have a look at the device and see if it was having any uptime issues or latency issues. Very intuitive, very simple, click-driven interface. But of course, if you want to change all this, you absolutely can. And you can modify these reports to however you wish. So I'm going to pause there because I think that's a pretty good ending point. And Brian, I'll hand it back to you.
Yeah. So thanks, Rupert. It's so refreshing, right? I've been around this space for I'll call it a few years, right? Where everything was always so network focused, right? And I'll say, and rightfully so, right? From where the industry has been in terms of focusing and how difficult it is to get data, how difficult it is to analyze the data. But now the challenge is a bit different, right? The challenge is around how do you provide that context of the network from an application perspective? How do we help, network ops and engineering teams become, I'll say expert collaborators across the IT organization, working with our application teams to help solve issues for the applications that are driving your business. And I hope that what you're beginning to see today is that in order to get that level of visibility, you need to be able to go get all that network data. You need to be able to easily analyze it, understand what's normal, give the visibility from the perspective that you need for that troubleshooting situation. Right in this demonstration, Rupert showed you both, a network perspective, and then especially more time on the application perspective. And if you're able to pull those things together, right, have that solid foundation of all the data that you want to go get information from, get the metric data, get the flow data, and then have it analyzed for you, and then you can then troubleshoot from the perspective that matters to you in your situation, just makes you that much more powerful in your actions, and servicing your team and making sure that the network is continuously performing for the applications that drive your business. I'll say, with that, Rupert, along the way, we've had a handful of questions come in that we've been able to answer for folks that are that have come in around some of the flexibility of what's going on here. So I know we don't have. I'll give one last call for questions if anybody has any. I'll give it maybe another 10 seconds or so. But if there aren't any more, we'll go and call it a day. And Rupert, thanks for jumping in and the lab demonstration showing off the impact. I think it's been really powerful. So thank you again. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.